Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, I'm John, this is video Trude, and welcome to Total War 3 Kingdoms, the great big historical Total War game coming up very soon indeed, and I've managed to get my hands on it again. We've featured this on the channel before when we could just look at the battle, but this time I've actually got my hands on the campaign. This is still at Creative Assembly's house, however, and this is just a preview, so sadly, that means I can only show you 20 minutes, so we better flipping get into this, because a lot has flipping changed. Luckily, in Total War, some things never change. You start off with an army, there's an enemy rebel army right in front of you. I think we can figure out the rest, actually, yes. Though actually, this faction that I'm playing as, Liu Bei, does have a fun tweak, which is, he doesn't actually get a starting territory. So you basically just pick a territory close by to where you begin, and just say, screw it, I'll take that over, that's going to be my capital for now. So there's a bit of fun flexibility there. But before we get into that, however, yeah, we've got some stuff to cover off here. Armies work very differently these days. It used to be you got yourself one general and then 20 units working for them. These days, every single general, hero, whatever you want to call them, they're only allowed a personal retinue of 6 units. Meaning a full stack army is 3 heroes, 6 units each, so a total of 18. So this here's my faction leader, Liu Bei, and he's got himself various different stats here. What he excels in is authority, which basically means he's not necessarily such a frontline sort of a guy. He doesn't like getting into the melee and murdering people himself, but he's got a lot of really important training and political and city-related abilities. I'll get into them in a minute. But of course, he's only managing a third of the army, so his units assigned to him down on the bottom left there, they're the ones picking up his bonuses, or lack of them. So they're probably some of the weaker stuff we've got. His 2 friends, however, Zhang Fei is flipping marvellous, because Zhang Fei is a vanguard, which basically means he wants to get right into the flipping front line because of his instinct ability, meaning not just him, but his units do bonus melee damage and also get bonus to charge. And the final lad here, Guan Yu, I apologise by the way, I'm going to be mispronouncing every name in the world, he's our champion, and that means his job is dueling, going up to the generals on the other side and flipping murdering them in 1-to-1 duels. So he's got a flipping ton of health. He has some fairly decent bonuses pertaining to his troops as well, like, you know, he's pretty good with spearmen, but that's not really his job. So each of these 3 guys have very different roles, and I mean, you could really personalise your army in lots of different directions. But you know what? They don't call it Total War for no reason. Let's just dive in, and I think you'll see what I mean about my various commanders pretty bloody quickly. Alright, let's go smash ourselves some rebels, but of course, there's more than one way to smash a rebel. We could just, you know, kill them, shoot them down, all of that business, except, oh, this is bloody convenient. So their general has challenged my champion general, nicknamed the God of War, to one-on-one combat. Now, my guy is very specialised at that, so we can beat them in a fair fight, but if my general can just kill his general, potentially, their troops will give up. It'll be a massive collapse in morale, and they can pretty much give up immediately. So let's just let him get on with that. Meanwhile, my vanguard's infantry are just going to charge forward because that's their job, and Liu Bei, because he's not much of a fighter, stays at the back with the archers. Let's just get down to Guan Yu and see how he's getting on, and he is just slaughtering this guy right now. Oh, this just isn't flipping fair. And there he goes. He is dead, and now we can just see, look at that. Morale is just collapsing immediately, and in a matter of flipping seconds, this battle will be over. And with the army defeated, time to move straight on to the little territory that they were guarding over there. The province system is back pretty much how it has been in Total War for quite some time, so this is a little sub-region, not the actual capital. But for the time being, I need to just take something so I have a chance to rest, repair my troops, recruit some more. So the little garrison here will be able to overrun this. This will do as a starting point. Oh, and 2 things I think you're going to like here, which is, number 1, a really welcome addition that was tried out in Thrones of Britannia that seems to have returned. Every settlement's got its own appropriate, unique map here. So even though this is just like a little sub-region, it's got its own proper, appropriate map. So we're taking over this quarry mine type thing, so therefore, you know what, it's got its own unique battle map where you've got to fight your way through the quarry, and there's these big impassable rocks, creating little choke points. Really cool indeed. But, and this is much more important, unlike Total War Warhammer, you actually get proper battle maps. So now when you're attacking a city, you can choose which angle to approach it from. It's not just like a solid wall you have to push through, where basically there's only one way to approach. No. Now you can approach from any angle. This map's a bit weird because it's built inside of a mountain, so you can only approach from like a little semicircle around it. But normal cities, you can approach from any angle, split up your forces, all that good stuff, which is such an improvement. I'm so glad that's back. And in fact, that's exactly what I'm going to do here. You see, Zhang Fei and his elite infantry, they can just basically punch their way through anything. So I'm going to leave them on this side of the field, and they're going to be my first command group. But over on the other side of the field, you can see there in the distance, the reinforcements are coming in, the remnants of that last battle I fought. So the rest of my armies are going over here, ready to intercept them, and then once they're done with that, pushing on the far side once Zhang Fei has drawn their attention. Alright, in come the reinforcements. My troops just quickly draw up to deal with that. We've got the high ground here, we've got all my archers on this side. We will tear them apart, no problem at all. There is, of course, a very important question we need to ask about any Total War game, which is, what rules are archers playing by? And in this game, I'm very happy to report, archers are ridiculously powerful kill machines. They tear everything apart. So we've got Archer Fire coming in on these lads right here, and the God of War is just getting involved because he can. He's very, very solid in a fight. The fact he's surrounded does not matter. He will do very well for himself. He's got flipping tons of health. He's basically got as much health as an elite infantry unit all by himself. Yeah, there's a real rock, paper, scissors thing going on here, which is, if archers can fire on a unit of infantry, they will just do devastating, appalling damage, but if cavalry get within 10 feet of archers, those archers are just going to melt. So every unit feels very, very distinct. Again, a bit like Thrones of Britannia, reminds me a bit of Shogun 2 as well. In fact, here we go. You can see the archers doing their terrible, terrible work there. That unit of infantry is just being shredded. Oh, I love archers in this game. Meanwhile, on the far side of the battle, Zhang Fei's troops are moving in. Remember, these guys are doing bonus damage to melee. They get bonus damage to their charge, so this initial charge is flipping devastating. And this guy has got his special ability, Blazing Roar, that basically just massively drops the morale. He can only use it once a battle, but if he uses that, pretty much anything that gets run into will break instantly. So that flank has already completely collapsed. My archers now moving into position to just slowly weaken them down, and the God of War may as well get involved too. That front line is not gonna last either. And at this point, with overwhelming melee force on one flank and overwhelming archer firepower on the other, this battle is as good as won. And with that, we take this little sub-region. This is a sub-region like you'd find in Thrones of Britannia or Shogun 2, which is, it's not like a mini town. Instead, it's one very specific thing. In this case, it's an iron mine. So it's going to produce a lot of money, but it can't do anything else. If I want to build any actual infrastructure, I'm going to need to take the actual capital, which, as you can see there, has a bunch of different building slots inside it. So that's really what I'm ultimately aiming for. Still, this place does have advantages. It's giving me a big old pile of money, it lets my troops heal up, and it lets me do a little bit of recruitment. This is where Liu Bei comes into his own. First up, he gets himself a couple of exclusive units. Many generals get these, so yeah, he can recruit Yi archers, which his friends might not be able to, who are basically archers who can also fight in melee, so they're a lot more versatile. But here's the big one. So Zhang Fei also needs a couple of extra troops to round out our army, and he's got himself a big charge bonus. So logically, we'd like to give him some melee cavalry. Now the problem is, cavalry is pretty flipping expensive to maintain, but this is where Liu Bei's ability starts coming into play. You see, his entire army, including the retinues belonging to his sub-generals, anything that's got militia in the name has 0 upkeep. You have to pay to recruit in the first place, but after that point, it's free. Liu Bei, because he's like a political master or something, he can have an entire 18-stack army running at 0 maintenance if you're willing to just accept that it's made up exclusively of militia troops. Now, they're not the best, but a full-stack army for free is not to be flipping sniffed at. And these mounted lancer militias, they are not bad at all. They will do the job. Recruitment, by the way, works exactly like it did in Thrones of Britannia, which was a very good system, so I'm glad it's back. Which is, you can basically recruit as much as you want in any given turn, but what you recruit doesn't arrive full strength. So it arrives at 50% strength. So not as brutal as it was in Thrones, but still enough that a freshly trained army is still at a significant disadvantage versus an existing one in terms of numbers. Now, we could go and attack the main city of this province right now, Dong, but that's a level 4 city. So that's pretty well guarded, proper walls, all the rest of it. Up north, however, there is another yellow turban rebel town. Here we go, to the level 2 town of Taishan, and the reason I wanted to come here first, being only level 2, it doesn't have walls yet, so I don't need to bother building battering rams, doing any sapping to create breaches in their walls. I can just walk in right now. And here we go, once again, we've got ourselves a new battle map for this little town right here. An interesting little place here, you can see for the first time, I can approach from literally any angle I want to. And each angle is very, very different indeed. So on this side of the town, we've got ourselves lots of little bridges, which probably work to the advantage of the defenders for the most part. Meanwhile, if we look over to this side of the town, it's a lot more open. So let's try splitting up our forces again. So once more, God of War and our faction leader on one approach, and Zhang Fei and his ridiculous missile of elite troops going in a different door. Let's see how the enemy reacts to that. So, the garrison's a lot more substantial on this occasion. Any attempt to push in, they'll be able to potentially reinforce and flank nice and easily. And that means Zhang Fei is moving over here. That gate's currently unguarded. Let's start thinning them out a little bit by making them stretch their forces a bit more widely. Alright, this is looking good so far. My archers are gently pushing up and pushing them back from the gate because they can't stand up to my archer fire. Meanwhile over here, Zhang Fei's got pretty much an open flipping door. So he's going to charge in now. He's moving a bit more slowly because of the snow. You've got to really take care in winter. He's going to charge in. No need to use his special bellow ability. These guys will break easy enough without bothering with that. We'll store that up for a more important moment down the line. Yeah, my shock troops are just going to tear that apart. Job done. We've got an opening. Here we go. The enemy's panicking. They don't know where they want to be. So I'm sending in my polearm troops, specialized anti-cavalry, but they'll do the job in a melee as well, especially with archer support, to go and secure the gates to make sure the towers aren't firing on me anymore. So in we go. The shock infantry just comes and swarms their guys. That's actually the captain. These guys don't actually have a general because this is a garrison. So this unit's just assumed to be the general. So as soon as they collapse, that's going to have a big knock-on effect to everyone else. This is now as good as one. We've got them sandwiched. And cities, of course, are the real powerhouses of your empire because as they grow, they unlock more and more building slots, can do more and more specialized things. In short, they're very, very important. But we've got a bit of a problem here, which is if I want to actually head west and take the city of Dong to complete the province of the iron mine, I've got myself neighbours right now, so it's time to do a little bit of diplomacy. And this is what I love about Three Kingdoms, which is there's a huge amount of diplomacy. So sure, we can start off with a non-aggression pact and he would accept that, except he really wants that. So asking for some gold is worth -1, the deal is still positive, he will accept. So now I've got peace on this border, and this guy will not be attacking Taishin, meaning it's safe for me to move my armies elsewhere. But there's just so much diplomacy you can do. Trading of goods, marriage alliances, there's vassalization and confederation. And now that characters actually have relationships with each other, and thus make them more or less likely to accept, yeah, there's a lot more interesting politics to be done than there's ever been in Total War before, which is flippin' marvellous. So my forces may be a little bit on the weak side for now, but they're probably strong enough to take Dong with the extra troops I've recruited. So let's get marching to the west. Oh yes, and with dual reform. The reform tech tree, being literally a tree, is just flipping beautiful. And when you select something, it flowers. Because the tech tree is just so stunningly pretty in this game. I love it. And more good news. Another faction to the south is also willing to sign a non-aggression pact if I just give them a little gift in the form of a stone archer sculpture. Well, I don't even know what it does and I haven't been using it so far, so go on then, my good man. Why not? And here we go. Our forces have reached the city of Dong. Level 4, actual walls here. So for the first time, we can't just march in. We've got to actually go building ourselves some siege equipment. Battering rams to knock down the gates, or sapping, which produces a breach in the walls. So let's actually just get one of each going on here. And here we go. We have got ourselves everything we need to take on Dong. We have got ourselves a battering ram. We've got ourselves the sap built. Let's get going. Alright, time for a two-pronged assault here. Zhang Fei and his ridiculous mega-powered assault infantry going in the breach. Meanwhile, my main force is just going to knock down the gate. However, we might have made a bit of a mistake here. We're attacking during the winter, which means due to the snow, my troops are moving very, very slowly indeed, which works massively to the advantage of the defenders here, because their towers are going to be able to attack us. So possibly, I should have waited until spring. Alright, send in the assault infantry, the lads with the swords. They are specialised anti-infantry infantry. And you, my good man, get in there as well and activate Blazing Roar. And as a result of that, these guys should collapse in no time at all. They're already wavering. My troops get the charge bonuses. They get the melee damage bonus straight through to the next. The first guys who are trying to hold the breach collapse immediately. Zhang Fei is basically just a missile. Point him at something you want to break and he can pretty much always take it out. But once he's used up his Blazing Roar and once the charge bonus has worn off, he's lost most of his advantage. So you've got to make sure that when you commit him, it's the right moment. Alright, battering ram does its work at the front gate, and it looks like the defenders are abandoning that gate. They're not going to try and hold it anymore. Probably time in a minute to bring up some of the cavalry to chase. Oh, we won't even need it. Some of their remaining infantry's been pinned by Zhang Fei, and now the forces from the gate are also on top of them, and we've got them flanked. This is done. We've crushed them. And here we go. A level 4 small city has fallen into our hands with 3 building slots already, but the problem is, we also need to, feed the people we now own. So we're actually in a food deficit for the time being, and that is something we're going to need to sort out. Ah, but Dong might be able to sort that problem out for itself. It already produces a bit of fish, and with just some small investment, it could produce a lot more. So, this city, if we just invest in it, can feed itself, and the rest of the empire too. The alternative solution to the food thing, by the way, would of course be, that's now also a tradable commodity. So, if I found someone who liked me, I might be able to secure food supply on an ongoing basis from them for a fair price. Ah, now here's interesting. Tao Quinn are calling for aid. They're my friends down to the south. And I'm perfectly happy to say yes, but there's also a yellow turban army floating around nearby. So my main army is going to start moving at speed towards the Tao Quinn to help them out. But that leaves Dong undefended for the time being. And that means it's time for a new army. So we've got various characters here of various different classes. Some of them good at commanding troops, some of them better at managing cities, some of them better at dueling. Unfortunately, as nice as it would be to hire a legendary man of many scars, all I can afford is a basic administrator. But he does come with a couple of half-strength troops, so that's 120 men already. We can also give him another arch unit just to firm that up, and combined with the garrison, that should start regrowing in the city right now, and the walls themselves, of course, that should be enough to hold off that battered yellow turban force. And as we should have expected, they've put the place under siege. That's fine, they should be able to hold out for some time. It's going to take them time to build the siege equipment. I need to stay focused on my main objective, which is that city right there, Langye. The game has issued me a mission to take that. Except you may remember I mentioned previously how Liu Bei is actually a diplomatic genius. Yeah, he's got one other really cool ability, which is that little yellow bar up in the top left there. That's his unity. And one of the things you can do with that is use it to annex any city belonging to the Han, who basically are the collapsing empires. They own a lot of territory at the beginning of the game. There's a lot of big, rich, but weak cities that he can just walk into because of his unity meter. The army in question just politely steps outside. Job flipping done. Still, Dong is certainly in a bit of trouble right now. Time, I think, to send my troops to go and reinforce. And unfortunately, it's too late. And I've got a lot less troops than I was expecting. Unfortunately, I've made a miscalculation here. The garrison didn't have time to grow before the yellow turbans put this place under siege. So all I've got is the remnants of the troops I hired. Barely 160 men. I think I've only got one choice here, which is archers are insane murder machines. If I can just keep them safe on the walls, maybe they can win by themselves. Everyone else, their job is to keep those archers safe. And if I want the archers to keep firing, I'm pulling my infantry out of the city. Their job is to keep their infantry standing in range of my towers and archers as long as possible. That's my only flipping chance at this point. Oh, and their leader is offering me a duel. And honestly, I've got no choice but to accept. If I could defeat their leader one-on-one, the rest of the forces might just run. And this looks like it's working, actually. A significant portion of their army are spearmen. So, one-on-one versus my swordsmen and axemen, they are not going to do the job. These are dedicated anti-cavalry forces, and there's no cavalry to kill. Their forces actually on this flank are collapsing, but then this is where their spearmen and their archers are. This is probably the weaker side of their army. Oh no, I'm losing. Right, I've got one ability here, melee evasion up. I may as well use it so he won't be able to hit me for a certain period of time. It might just be enough to actually beat him. Oh no, no, it's starting to go wrong here. My archers are not happy with the situation at all. And my leader falls in battle. But oh, we gave a good fight there. And that was just a little skirmish. This is why I love the new general and the duel system. It works so nicely for letting there be two battles happening at once. It's flipping great. But you know what, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately my 20 minutes are up, so we must leave things off there. But this here is Total War 3 Kingdoms, and oh yes, I am very excited for this. This is shaping up very, very nicely indeed. And I've had a thought about it as well, which is, it really feels to me like a Total War greatest hits game. It's taking some of my favourite stuff from some of the best games in the Total War franchise. All the best bits from the recent stuff in the classics. There's a lot of really, really cool ideas going on here. The really theatrical romance superhuman generals and heroes is kind of taking some of the really cool stuff from the Warhammer games. In terms of combat, it feels a lot like Shogun 2 actually. That's the one it puts most in mind of, Shogun 2, and lots of people love Shogun 2. Definitely one of the best Total War games so far, so that's a marvellously good idea. Some of the really interesting experiments related to recruitment and food have been brought in from Thrones of Britannia. It just feels like it's taken all the best ideas from all the recent Total War games and they've all come into one place. I'm very excited for this, ladies and gentlemen. As soon as I can get proper review code, you will be seeing a series of this, because this could really be one to watch. And I'm very, very excited for it. So, hopefully, I will get to bring you more very, very soon indeed. But in the meantime, I've been John. This has been many a true nerd, and this has been Total War 3 Kingdoms. Thank you very much, and goodbye. This guy's enjoying that. This guy's enjoying his elephant a bit too much. In Fair Verona, we set our scene. Oh my god, Becky, look at her butt. It is so big. They've managed to glitch inside one of the buildings. Elephants in the rear! And then in come the chariot!